Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to call to order the City Council Department Budget Presentation Meeting of May the 9th, 2016, and ask the City Clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Hall,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hansen, Councilmember Rivera, Councilmember Maxwell,
Here.
Councilmember Weir, Councilmember Smith,
I'm here.
Councilmember Sullivan, Councilmember Parlier,
Here.
At this time, in order to comply with the Brown Act, we will receive public statements. All statements are given a 3-minute time limit, 15 minutes per subject. Madam Clerk, are there any public statements?
There are no public statements at this time.
We'll move to Workshop A, Department Budget Presentation, General Government.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Council members. Chris Hewitt, City Manager's Office. Today I'll be reviewing the general government portion of the budget for you. The general government portion of the budget is made up of the following divisions: Mayor and City Council, City Manager's Office, the City Clerk's Office, Human Resources, Risk Management, and the Information Technology Division. First, I'd like to start out by reviewing the Mayor and City Council budget as proposed for next fiscal year. You will see overall we are projecting a 2.25% decrease as compared to the current year adopted budget. Go over both the Mayor and City Council separately. In the Mayor's Office, there are some salary and benefit related line item increases, both related to PERS and healthcare. When we look at the operating budget component of the budget, pens, pencils, that sort of thing, we're showing a slight decrease, and that's really due to some internal rental rate changes that were made over the course of the year. Looking at the City Council budget, again showing a slight decrease, about 4.3%. That is both related to changes and reductions in salary and benefit related line items, as well as rental rates associated with the various IT equipment that is utilized for City Council meetings, and the rent and the rates that are charged for that equipment. Those went down slightly, so that is why that is decreasing. When you look at the executive department, this is the organizational chart. You have the city manager, 2 assistant city managers, risk management, human resources, city clerk, information technology, Visit Bakersfield, and the administrative and support staff of the executive staff. I'd like to briefly go over some of our accomplishments. First and foremost, the Information Technology Division has successfully implemented a new voice over internet protocol phone system that was launched fully about 2 weeks ago. The City Manager's Office worked jointly with the County of Kern to develop a new tax sharing agreement for future annexations. Most recently, the city was actually recognized as a Veterans Employer of the Year recipient by the State Employment Development Department and the California Employer Advisory Council. This is a recognition that was bestowed, I believe, on only 9 entities throughout the state. The city was the only municipality to receive that designation. The City Manager's Office and Information Technology Division led a collaborative effort to launch BakersfieldCity.us, the new city website. City Clerk's Office oversaw all of the candidate filings for the mayoral election, and our Risk Management Division implemented a cost-saving measure as it relates to an alternative dispute resolution process for certain classifications of both fire and police personnel. Some additional accomplishments continuing with risk management. They provided several OSHA regulatory safety training opportunities for staff. We actually had approximately 75 supervisors attending. The City Manager's Office drafted and received 9 grants worth just over $1 million for various improvements. Human Resources staff implemented continuous testing for the police trainee recruitments and transitioned to a pellet B test, which actually resulted in cost savings to the city. The City Manager's Office coordinated efforts as it relates to the high-speed rail alignment and the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. Continuing, the City Manager's Office and Human Resources continue to work with all labor groups on new agreements, completed and began to implement findings from the recently completed Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan. City Clerk's office led efforts to implement the electronic agenda management system for use now with the Planning Commission, similar to what is used for the City Council. And finally, we received the Government Finance Award, Officer Association Award for the budget presentation for the current fiscal year. Looking at next year, we're going to continue, of course, to monitor the local economy and recommend adjustments to the budget as necessary due to the oil industry impacts. Continue to collaborate with the Finance Department to implement a new timekeeping software system. We're going to develop and implement a wireless network ring. Our Information Technology Division will do that, which removes basically some older analog circuits and improves data service and connections to the fire stations. Going to continue, of course, to deliver the various Thomas Roads Improvement Program projects, work collaboratively with the Information Technology Division, our public safety partners, County of Kern, and the California Office of Emergency Services to evaluate designs for an upgraded radio system. Continue to coordinate efforts related to both high-speed rail and the groundwater sustainability issues. Another goal or action plan for next year as it relates to risk management and safety in HR will be expanded efforts in communicating and educating employees regarding benefits that are available to them. And then finally, we're going to continue to emphasize both our safety program and continue to expand our health initiatives and workplace wellness programs. On to the numbers. The numbers are broken down for the executive group in two different ways before you. The first and foremost is by division. The second is by the source of fund. First and foremost, when you look at the bottom line, we're proposing a 0.19% increase. 3 out of the 5 divisions are showing a decrease year over year to about $20.8 million total. When you look at the source of funds, the executive group has 3 funding sources. First, the general fund, which is actually showing about a 0.5% decrease, close to $40,000. The equipment fund is showing a slight increase, about 2.4%, and then the self-insurance fund is 0.1%. A little bit more about some significant changes that you will note in the budget for the executive group. Both the city manager's office and the city clerk's office will actually be sharing a clerk typist 1 position moving into next fiscal year. That results in the elimination of, in one of the vacant clerk typist positions that's included on the proposed list for elimination. Also proposing the elimination of a vacant GIS technician position. Over the last 2 years, we've eliminated most travel and training budgets, and we've seen reductions in recruitment costs as we have reduced the number of positions that are currently being hired. Wanted to mention in the equipment fund, we are proposing the replacement of equipment. This is, again, as I mentioned last week, a reduced list from what was originally proposed. So it's just under $1 million that we're proposing for replacement of computers, servers, printers, the like. Again, as I mentioned, one of the goals for next year is improving a network ring, so to speak. This, again, increases data capability, and actually we show a cost savings as it relates to improving communications to the various fire stations. Again, like to make a point here that we are continuing support and licensing for various technologies that have been in existence for some time now, including our accounting system, the Bakersfield mobile smartphone app, software licensing for city employees, and of course, ensuring that our data is secure and there's backup through both backup and redundant systems. Some new technology that we've implemented over the past year is a human resources module that ties into our accounting and payroll system, a self-help application for city employees where they can receive certain information about tax information, pay stub information electronically. An executive time management program. This is to standardize shift timing throughout the city through an integrated system. Of course, we've updated the website, and as I mentioned last time, we are working on an open budget platform. And then finally, just a few months ago, the City Council approved a new video management system, which basically consolidates and integrates all the different platforms and technologies as it relates to video and cameras throughout the city onto one platform. Finally, I'd like to close by reviewing staffing numbers. As I mentioned previously, we were proposing the elimination of 2 positions in the executive department. This is reflective of that proposed complement reduction. You will know, and I did asterisks last year, we did merge the telecommunications group with the information technology division, so that was the first year where we saw that occur. So that's why that number jumped from 59 to 66. And again, as we have vacancies throughout the year, we will be reviewing them as they occur for potential freezing based upon future budget information that we receive. With that ends my presentation regarding the executive department and the mayor and council budgets. I am happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Mr. Hewitt, there doesn't seem to be any questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. We will now hear from Visit Bakersfield on the next budget presentation.
Mayor, council members, David Lyman from Visit Bakersfield. Mayor Hall, this is my last budget presentation with you at the gavel. Let me thank you for the kindness and consideration you've shown me and countless others who have stood right here over the past 16 years. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come back and update you on our activities this year. Let me begin by recognizing the outstanding efforts of my staff. They showcase the best of Bakersfield to our visitors, and we get all kinds of visitors. They are the team More to Explore, Misty Eaton, our marketing and events specialist, Matt Billingsley, our sales manager, and Wendy Zielsdorf, our director of First Impressions. We are the small group of people in the small building down the street that makes big things happen. What do we do in that small building down the street? I tell you every year, and I'm here to tell you again. Our goal is to help people spend their money. As you know, Bakersfield is the 52nd largest city in the country by population. We're larger than places like St. Louis, Missouri, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are a major urban area, and we want to make sure that everyone knows that we have major urban area amenities. You may think that all of our efforts are spent helping visitors, and that's what most people think. And as I said earlier, we do get all kinds of visitors. But over the past few years, we've sought to raise the visibility of both Visit Bakersfield specifically and Bakersfield overall. So in addition to helping visitors, we see the human resources professionals recruiting new employees come to our office for community information about Bakersfield. These same HR people look to us for information for orientation packets for new employees who are coming to Bakersfield. People who are coming to Bakersfield interviewing for jobs ask us for information. So too do people who have just moved here. Real estate agents regularly visit our office for information to give prospects looking to buy property here. Business owners looking to expand in Bakersfield ask us for Bakersfield information. So too do real estate investors. We also get lots of referrals from a lot of places like county departments, Chamber of Commerce, and large employers looking for Bakersfield facts and statistics. With a variety of requests, we make sure to keep a current list of positive information about Bakersfield handy. Because Bakersfield's been ranking so highly on several positive community surveys recently, we made sure to include this information in our recent arrival guide, as you can see here. But the good news keeps coming. Since the arrival guide was published, Bakersfield has garnered these additional positive rankings. Number 1 in highest average revenue for women-owned businesses, number 4 in commercial renovations and remodeling, number 2 best city to get out of debt, and the 11th best city for veterans. We keep track of all of this positive information, so what we have is up to date for the many types of customers that we serve. And as you can see from the list I just showed you, we really are much more than simply a visitor center. We are, in fact, a Bakersfield information center, although I like how a reporter described us not too long ago as being the concierge of Bakersfield. As I mentioned earlier, it's been a busy year, so let me quickly highlight some of our accomplishments. We published the new official Bakersfield Arrival Guide, providing visitors and local residents with a dining guide, complete hotel listings, and information on Bakersfield's many festivals and things to see and do. Visit Bakersfield facilitated several events in the fiscal year that will be held either this year or in future fiscal years. They will attract approximately 86,520 delegates. They will book over 58,600 hotel room nights in Bakersfield. The economic impact of these events, more than $23 million in the current fiscal year. The new Bakersfield Museum Trail was launched in January, providing the first ever effort to cross-promote attendance among Bakersfield's 4 museums. This new brochure is distributed in about 1,200 locations in Central and Southern California, with the goal to get people to come to Bakersfield and, yes, to spend their money. Major funding for this brochure was provided by a grant from the Kern County Tourism Promotion Grant Program. The first ever comprehensive inventory of downtown public art was completed this year. And we get a lot of requests from people asking where art is in Bakersfield, and I'm pleased to tell you that we identified more than 90 pieces of public art just in downtown alone. Our new website, visitbakersfield.com, was launched, and its fresh, vibrant, and colorful appearance was specifically designed to be viewed on a variety of platforms, including tablets, smartphones, and mobile devices. We're happy to learn that our hard work paid off by being recognized by the travel industry through a Bronze Adrian Award presented by HSMAI, the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. Our new website continues to be used heavily. It's had about 168,000 visitors, and 82% of those visitors are first-time visits. VisitBakersfield.com continues to be a page 1 result on Google for many relevant Bakersfield keyword searches. I'm also happy to tell you that our work products are not the only award winners. Our sales manager, Matt Billingsley, recently earned the title Certified Sports Event Executive from the National Association of Sports Commissions. This is the highest designation in the sports destination management industry, and I'm proud to tell you that Mr. Billingsley is now one of only 3 CSEEs in California and only one of 117 nationwide. As an aside, you should know that Mr. Billingsley is also president-elect of CVTA, the Central Valley Tourism Association. This is a big deal. Mr. Billingsley is the only person from Kern County ever to serve on the CVTA board, and this means that Bakersfield has a seat at the table, and it continues our efforts to raise Bakersfield's visibility at the state and regional levels. When we can, we've been at events to promote Visit Bakersfield. There was a table at the CIF Wrestling Championships in March. We were also at the Kern County 150th Birthday Bash. Speaking of the Birthday Bash, we coordinated the Supervisorial District 3 displays for that event on April 16th. We continue to collaborate with our economic development partners. Once again, we provided the text and photos for the lifestyle section of Kern EDC's market overview publication. In return, we got a free half-page ad. We continue to see local press coverage of travel and tourism in the Kern Business Journal. Amtrak offered us a free ad in its national timetable to promote Bakersfield, as you can see in the lower right. Visit Bakersfield provided financial incentives to several groups and events, the largest being the Jehovah's Witness Watchtower Convention. This group meets at Rabobank Arena every summer and is the largest group to meet in Bakersfield. More good news. They've increased the number of conferences this year from 6 to 7. That means more church delegates coming to Bakersfield, staying in hotels, and eating in local restaurants. CIF Boys Wrestling Championships once again were held in March in Rabobank Arena, and this event is committed to Bakersfield through at least 2020. We were again the sponsor for the media luncheon of the Winter Showdown at the Kern County Raceway Park. We worked closely with the event organizers to make sure that the racers and their team members were booked into hotels within the city of Bakersfield. Cali Finale returned to Rabobank Theater. This is the 3rd cheerleading and dance competition's time in Bakersfield. Sweet Adelines returned to Bakersfield, and we have this group locked in through 2021. We assisted six regional youth softball tournaments held at Mesa Marin this past year. We specifically target youth sports, not just because Bakersfield has outstanding venues to host such events, but because youth sports participants don't travel by themselves. They bring their parents, their siblings, grandparents, and other family members, and all of them need places to stay and places to eat. We again sponsored the Welcome Barbecue for the Western Street Rods in April. This is the 30th year this group has been in Bakersfield. Bakersfield Fiesta held its 50th square dancing extravaganza at Kern County Fairgrounds, and this event brought dancers from 207 cities throughout California, plus additional dancers from 6 other states. The 9th annual Don Glover Masters Bowling Tournament was held at Southwest Lanes, and we sponsored the Bakersfield Open with the 2nd year at Bakersfield Country Club. The local hotel market is very vibrant, with several new brands and new hotels opening. The Marriott Town Place Suites built its first ever Bakersfield location and opened in April. The Red Roof Inn opened its first ever location in Bakersfield when it rebranded and refurbished an existing property on Oak Street. Hyatt Place announced plans for its first ever Bakersfield location on Coffee Road, north of Stockdale Highway. Red Lion returned to Bakersfield when it rebranded and refurbished an existing property on Buck Owens Boulevard. Quality Inn opened on Union Avenue. This was the first time we've had a nationally named property on Union Avenue in quite a number of years. Fairfield Inn Suites had its first ever Bakersfield facility under construction and is scheduled to open later this year at Meadowsfield Airport. Holiday Inn Express built a new Bakersfield location and opened its doors in April, also near Meadowsfield. There's also been discussion about 2 new hotels. One is at Hosking Avenue and Freeway 99, the other is at Coffee and Brimhall Roads. This past year, Spring Hill Suites by Marriott completed a $1.8 million renovation of its Bakersfield facility, and Residence Inn by Marriott completed a $2.5 million renovation. Lastly, the Padre Hotel earned the AAA 4-diamond designation, becoming Bakersfield's only 4-diamond property. As you can see, we've seen a lot of positive changes recently in the local hotel industry. Alas, negative changes have arisen due to the decline in the oil industry. There are fewer oil industry people staying in hotels on business, which means lower hotel occupancy rates, which means less transient occupancy tax revenues. Our proposed budget reflects this reality. Visit Bakersfield is funded through the transient occupancy tax revenues. We receive no general fund monies. We are proposing a budget for the upcoming fiscal year of $688,858. This is this is 2.3% less than the approved budget for the current fiscal year. Breaks down as follows. Salaries and benefits, $408,647, which is an increase of 1.1%. This includes employee step increases and increases in health care and CalPERS rates. Our proposed operating budget, $280,211, a decrease of 6.9%. Our service level indicators are as follows. The estimated economic impact of events that we booked during the current fiscal year to be realized in this or future fiscal years will remain steady at $23 million. Room nights booked in the current fiscal year to be realized in this or future fiscal years will remain flat at 59,000. The number of delegates from meetings booked during the current fiscal year who will stay in this or future fiscal years is projected to increase slightly to 85,000. The number of trade shows we will attend to promote Bakersfield as a meeting and event location will decrease to 7. And we project a continued increase in requests for information from those many different types of groups I showed you to about 2,300. Our action plan remains the same. We will continue to target local residents who belong to professional organizations that hold regular, regional, and statewide meetings with the goal of attracting those meetings to Bakersfield. We will continue to promote Bakersfield as a point of destination for both group and individual travel, and we will once again focus on value-added tourism, such as attracting new events and visitors to Bakersfield, retaining existing events, and increasing spending and tax revenue generated by those existing events. In the year ahead, watch for continued instability in the local oil industry. Cheaper gasoline, well, that means more people are driving, which means more visitors arriving by car and bus. However, corporate layoffs mean lower hotel occupancy levels. Rafting on the Kern River returns. These higher water levels should lure more people here to enjoy outdoor recreational opportunities and to spend their money. In fact, Rivers End Rafting, which is located on Highway 178 here in Bakersfield, began its season this past Saturday. This is a welcome change from last year when they were not open at all. Look for a readjustment in the local hotel industry. We'll see an increased supply of rooms because of the several new hotels that I mentioned earlier. However, we'll see a decreased demand from corporate travelers for those hotel rooms due to the downturn in the oil industry. Watch for the debut of Art Trek as we unveil our new walking tour of downtown public art and galleries, and we will continue our collaboration with our economic development partners. As I mentioned earlier, Bakersfield is larger population-wise than St. Louis or Pittsburgh. But when we look at the size of our visitor centers, Visit Bakersfield has 4, Explore St. Louis has 81, and Visit Pittsburgh has 53. I tell you this not as a plea for more resources or more staffing, but just to let you know that the local taxpayers are getting an outstanding return on their investment at Visit Bakersfield. In the year ahead, our team looks forward to presenting information to show more visitors and more residents alike that in Bakersfield there really is more to explore. Thank you.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. David, I always look forward to your to your presentation. Very well done as always. But
Thank you.
just, you know, you're doing a great job. Your team work well together. But it's just wonderful to know all that's going on, and certainly a lot to explore, a lot to do here in town. So thank you. Job well done.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lyman. I will miss you as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Come back to visit.
Okay, we'll move to the next budget presentation for the Rabobank Arena and Convention Center. Mr. Dorman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City staff, thank you for allowing us to be here. Mayor, it's been a privilege working with you as well.
Thank you.
We will miss you at the arena. Hopefully you will be a prominent attendee at the events.
Thank you.
Continue to be. This year's presentation is going to look pretty similar. Quick overview, we had 81 Rabobank events over the year with an attendance of over 380,000. A little bit down from last year, but with number of events and attendees. 82 Rabobank Theater and Convention events with an attendance over 95,000 people. That's a little up from last year. We had only had 76 events with about 54,000 people in attendance last year, so that's good news. 8 Bright House Networks amphitheater events with attendance over 16,000. Last year we had a few more events, but a little less in attendance. Over 25,000 customers served at the San Joaquin Community Hospital Ice Center, which is always a fun destination. Overall facility increase over 5%. It's actually a little closer to about 10% when you do the math. Rabobank Arena Theater Convention Center highlights for 15-16. We enjoyed capacity crowds at the Florida Georgia Line concert that happened in August. Kevin Hart event, he's a comedian who appeared in October. Juan Gabriel in November. G-Eazy and Chris Stapleton both happened in April. NHL hockey returned to Bakersfield at the arena and occurred in September when the Kings took on the Coyotes in an exhibition game. It was a lot of fun for all that attended. Bright House Networks amphitheater highlights. First and foremost, thank you very much for the improvements that have been made out at the venue. We look forward to that reaping some great rewards. Thank you again to the City Council and certain members of the City Council for sure that helped us secure some of the donations that were needed for donations and sponsorships that were needed to put on the 4th annual 4th of July celebration. Thank you, Mr. Tandy, for your participation as well. We enjoyed over 12,000, closer to 14,000 in attendance for that event. Highlights at the Ice Center. We had 2 Dragon teams, squirt and bantam level, made state finals, which was a big deal. Dragons to be rebranded as the Junior Condors for next season. So there's a lot going on there. Everybody's really excited about that. Kern County Knights finished as runner-up in the inaugural LA Kings High School and Hockey League. So the High School Hockey League, which was new, and we take a lot of pride in that, a lot of efforts by our team members over there. Rabobank Arena events that occurred in 15-16. You can read through those. WWE Live, Florida Georgia Line, which I mentioned previously. The circus was back in town. The NHL returned. We had our annual Old School Jam, Pepe Aguilar, Kevin Hart, which I mentioned earlier, Disney on Ice. The PBR event was back. Juan Gabriel was a great show. Guns N' Hoses boxing tournament. The Monster X, the big trucks that are always fun to deal with, the cleanup afterwards. The CIF State Wrestling Championship, which David mentioned earlier. G-Eazy and Roberto Tapia, to name a few. Rabobank Theater, Convention Center, events that happened. Dancing with the Stars, I won't read through all these, but some really great ones. J Balvin, Nutcracker was on and off there for a minute, but it did return. We were happy to have that. Had some great concerts with Cage the Elephant, Slayer, and Chris Stapleton, which if you didn't make it was just a wonderful night of country music at the theater with a capacity crowd. The lovely Shin Yun Dynasty event returned, and we hope to have them back soon as well. Sesame Street is coming back. And Celtic Woman, Adrienne Uribe, Sesame Street Live, and the Groove Summer Jam. Those events have not happened yet, but they will be happening this fiscal year, so we had them on the sheet. Ramon Ayala was supposed to have already happened, but he got held up in Texas, so that date got moved a little bit, so it's actually upcoming. Events that occurred in the 15-16 year out at the amphitheater, at the Bright House Networks Amphitheater. Thank you very much for helping us put on the 4th of July celebration. Firefall, Gary Allen, Hotel California were all part of the last year's concert series that occurred. Gospel Fest occurred again. Part of this year's series that will occur in this current fiscal year, Leonard Skinner and Ziggy Marley. We're very excited about those two acts, and I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. Upcoming events, just to name a few, we are working on a few more, but the biggest, obviously, we've got coming is Carrie Underwood. We expect a capacity crowd at that at the arena. We're very excited. Chris Young, another very popular country act. Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus returns. The Condors, obviously, will be having their season there as well. Disney on Ice returns, as well as CIF Wrestling, which David mentioned we have through 2020. And hopefully beyond, obviously. Upcoming events at the theater, Canine Competition. Chase Rice, another country artist who's really hot right now. We expect a big crowd for that. We have a couple of conferences that are going to be big attendees and help fill hotel rooms. Rockwell Automation Conference is one of those. The Broadway series with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Annie, and Cinderella. Upcoming events at the Bright House Networks Amphitheater, and this is what I was mentioning, and this is what we're really excited about. Along with Leonard Skinner and Ziggy Marley, we have Kenny Rogers, who's doing his farewell tour. So if you haven't seen him or haven't seen him in a long time, please come out and join us. We have UB40 and the Wailers as part of that series, as well as the Beach Boys. We have the 4th of July celebration up there, and you'll notice there's an asterisk. We are planning to move forward with that event. We've had a lot of help from council and from Mr. Tandy as well, securing sponsorships. We continue to seek sponsorships. We're just a little shy of our goal, but we do think we're going to get there. We're hopeful to get there, but if you got some people that you want to reach out to, please feel free. You can direct them to me or to our department, and we will make sure that they get taken care of. We've got more information regarding what that entails. You're free to contact me at any time, and I'll be happy to give you more information. Just worth noting, these acts that are coming up out of Bright House Networks Amphitheater, the Ziggy Marley and Leonard Skinner, friends call him Lenny, UB40 and the Beach Boys. You guys asked us to go out and get some bigger name shows. We've done that, and we hope that you recognize that we've gone out and done this. What we need now is the people of Bakersfield to support those acts and come out and see the shows and buy some tickets and enjoy themselves. The more people that come out and enjoy these shows, the more that these artists tell their managers, managers tell the promoters, word gets spread throughout the industry, and the more likely it is that we have these types of acts return to that great venue. Moving on to speak about the capital improvements that occurred during 15-16. Obviously, the Condor locker room and coaching staff offices were upgraded tremendously Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you had a chance to walk through those areas of the venue. Did a great job. We had, because of their new locker room configuration, we did have to relocate one of the dressing rooms and convert our old press room. We did buy a Zamboni. Acrylic hockey shielding was purchased. That's the safety glass around that keeps the pucks in the ice as opposed to going flying, and it's got a little flex built into it because the old system was that really hard tempered glass, and part of having AHL in the building required us to switch out that old glass. Concession stand dry storage area, we converted from when we had to build out that extra press room, we changed over part of the building and made a nice dry storage area for Aramark. Press room, production office relocation, which was part of that earlier one. The arena LED sports lighting retrofit, I'll talk more a little bit about that in a little bit, but that was a huge undertaking. Theater downlight LED retrofit and some exterior downlighting with LED lighting as well. Ice Center interior painting took place during the 15-16 year. There's not going to be a request for capital improvement projects this coming year due to a lack of funding, obviously, and the downturn in the economy, so we realize that. So we've kind of put the brakes on asking for anything special. There are some things on our wish list that we'll get back into when the time is right. Our tenants that we like to talk about, Bakersfield Condors, excuse me. First year as being part of the American Hockey League. What a great bunch of hockey players we got to see come through the arena this year. A lot of NHL players on their way up and down. 16 Condors spent time this year at the NHL level, so that's awesome to see that. It was a record. Their record was 29, 28, and 9. Home record was 17, 13, and 4. They missed the playoffs a little bit, more than just missed, but they did miss the playoffs, unfortunately, in the Pacific Division. But we have high hopes for them next year for sure. Average regular season attendance was up 9.7% from the previous year, with an average of almost 5,200 people per game. Just worth noting, our food and beverage per caps showed a significant increase as well. So not only did more people show up, they enjoyed a lot more food and beverage with us, and that's always a highlight. We talk about our tenant over at the theater. GM Theatricals continues with us. Last year they had, or this year that we're coming out of, they had three titles. They're going to bring us 3 titles for the upcoming season, including Rudolph the Musical, Annie, and Cinderella the Musical. Bakersfield Symphony Orchestra will continue to call us home for another year, so we're looking forward to them as well. And that is the 41st straight year of having the orchestra with us. Sustainability and conservation is key to us, key to our success. It's something we take very seriously. And just reading through some of these highlights, we saved approximately 2 million gallons of water since 2014. Last year that was 1 million, so we've increased the savings another 1 million. The Retro Commission project continuing on with additional cost-saving measures, looking to save about $26,000 annually on our electrical consumption. Sorry, having a tough time today. Theater LED lighting retrofit was completed. Past year lighting, we had 52,000 plus watts of usage. With the current LED lighting, you can see a dramatic decrease in wattage, down to just almost 8,000 watts. 2015-16 monthly recycling diversion rates remain consistent in the 21 to 51% range. We are the only arena in the state of California to be certified recycling collection site with our collection program there. And again, we were nominated for 2 Kern Green Awards for environmental practices. So that shows a lot of dedication by our staff there, especially Adam Miller in operations. America Recycles Day, we collected over 100,000 pounds of recyclable waste from the community. So we're doing our part for sustainability and conservation, and it shows. Sponsorships, sales and suites, all our suites are pretty much rented out. I think we may have one or two available at this point, but our sponsorships are continuing to thrive. We added sponsorship deals with AT&T, W.A. Thompson, Coors, the Alta One Federal Credit Union, Bright House Networks, Budweiser, California Resources Corp., Motor City, Cleanwell, and Toyota. Some of these are just continuations, but they're bringing more to the table, so we appreciate their efforts and what they're doing for our venues, for your venues. Down to the numbers, the 16-17 combined proposed budget with an operating income projected to be around $6,454,000. We are estimating our operating expenses to come in at just a little over $6.8 million, with a goal of a loss of $381,994. That would, based on the agreement with AEG, your limit would be that would be a city coverage cost because you're limited to the first 400 plus, as we'll talk about next. A little recap of the last 4 years. I changed this slide around a little bit because in the past it's been a little confusing as to what the city savings were based on the old information of before private management came to the city of Bakersfield. It was an average loss of about $850,000 a year. Once you brought in private management, the deals were structured differently. What I did with this slide was just limit it to the time since AEG's been at the building. With fiscal year ending 2014, the loss was $784,000 plus. City's limited coverage was limited to covering only the $415,718, which AEG covered the remaining $368,000. Year ending 2015, the loss was a little over $1 million. You only had to pay $415,000. We picked up the rest. This year, we're projecting a loss of $825,000. Again, you were limited to $415,718. We will be covering the $409,000. We are cautiously optimistic for next fiscal year, with revenue projected, as I said earlier, at $6.4 million, expenses at $6.8, with a net loss, hopefully, we're going to come in under that $415,000 if all the stars line up and we get the shows that we're hoping we can get. We hope to end with a loss of about $381,000, which would save you the difference between the $415,000. If that makes a little more sense, hopefully, than the last time we stood up here and did this. And that concludes the presentation, and I stand ready for questions.
Councilmember Parlier.
Thank you, Mayor. John, I just want to thank you for this morning. Both myself and Councilmember Smith were on the First Look show with Scott Cox. We talked about the 4th of July fireworks and sponsorship opportunities for people within the community, along with the events that are upcoming for the Bright House Network Amphitheater. So I just want to thank you again. It was a fun time on the show. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. And it's worth pointing out that the sponsors that we have brought to table, thanks to some of your efforts, as well as Councilmember Smith and the rest of the board. And Sunshine Metal Clad is back. KS Industries is back. Haddock Dodge and Nissan has come to the table. Southern California Gas, PG&E, Kern Refuse, as well as Stone Ranch have all stepped up to the plate so far.
But we're still short about how much?
Based on our budget, we're short just shy of $10,000
Okay.
at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dorman. Next budget presentation will be from the City Attorney's Office.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Virginia Gennaro, City Attorney, and I'll be making our 2016-17 budget presentation. We start off with our organizational chart. As you know, the City Attorney reports directly to the City Council, and you can see a fairly balanced internal composition, 5 attorneys and 5 staff members, although we do lean heavily on outside counsel. That outside counsel, I believe you're familiar with. I've listed a few. Clifford and Brown, of course, is under contract with the council through 2020. They represent the city on primarily tort cases as well as some of our administrative hearings. Of course, we have Martirosian and Runyon located here in Bakersfield now. They are under contract with the city through 2019, and they represent primarily the police department in civil rights cases, although they are available for other cases on an as-needed basis. Worth noting, of course, is Dwayne Morris that represents the city in water matters, but their fee comes out of the water department budget. And I think also worth noting is Kutak Rock. Kutak is representing the city on the 2 non-CEQA and non-eminent domain matters affiliated with the TRIP projects. And again, those monies are coming out of the TRIP budget. Our mission has remained the same over the years, and that's to represent and provide advice to the mayor and all of you, as well as the department and division heads and staff within the city of Bakersfield. We try to do that in the municipal area so that we avoid litigation. And if that fails, of course, we're there to represent the city in the litigation matters and to defend the city in those court actions and administrative hearings. And we are trying, of course, to continue to handle certain matters in-house when appropriate. I would note that of the 13 cases that we currently have on our books and handling in-house, 9 are being handled by Mr. Iger on your favorite topic, medical marijuana, and 3 are being handled by Mr. Rudnick relevant to Cal OSHA claims against the city. In terms of our municipal accomplishments, what you see up here are topics which represent areas that our office has spent quite a lot of time actually in not only performing the legal research behind those topics, but in some areas educating the public, and where you, of course, have indicated a desire, the appropriate resolution or ordinance for your board to consider and for your constituents. I think one of the accomplishments that deserves a particular shout out is the Kern River Groundwater Sustainability Agency. I know you've been hearing a lot about this in the past 18 months, and it's certainly an area that you're going to be hearing more about in the future. But this was a formation not only with our partners Kern Delta and ID4 through the Kern County Water Agency, but it was quite an achievement, not again in dealing with those partners, but in the number of city staff and divisions and departments that it entailed putting this together. And I may say putting it together 12 months earlier than the state deadline. But particular thanks to the city manager's office, the water department, the city clerk, the IT department, and the finance department is now going to be getting involved. This agency is a standalone agency. You can see the boundaries on your PowerPoint. It will have, it's a separate board. Vice Mayor Hansen serves as the representative of the city, and not only will it have its own logo, but it will have its own checking account and its own identity. In terms of the accomplishments in the litigation area this past year, we'll talk a little bit about the medical marijuana in just a minute, but we continue to represent the police in pitches motions at court, code enforcement in terms of the abatement warrants. Mr. Rudnick, as you know, settled that illegal sewer connection matter and retrieved about $30,000 in sewer fees. And he also works very closely with the city manager's office and finance department and was instrumental in allowing the successor agency to keep funds transferred from the former RDA. With regard to the medical marijuana, I know that you've heard a lot about it, and again, I sense a little bit of frustration, not only from you, but from your constituents that we're not moving quick enough. But again, our office, particularly Mr. Iger, has sent out in the last fiscal year 60 letters to both property and dispensary owners. That's 30 to property owners, 30 to dispensary owners. Of those total letters, 9 of those, when those operators and owners received those letters, they voluntarily closed their dispensary. So that's a pretty good statistic when you look at it in that light, a little over, close to a third. For those that did not respond positively to the letter, Mr. Iger filed lawsuits, and of those lawsuits, 3 have gone ahead and closed. And again, we remain committed to the council and your constituents to continue with the 9, and we continue to file more as a result. In terms of litigation accomplishments from outside counsel, a pretty good year, although we are accustomed to having good years with outside counsel, but they did dispose of 20 civil cases. 6 of those were, in addition, 6 eminent domain cases, 2 verdicts in favor of the city. The slaughter appeal was resolved in favor of the city, and the land lot case, which recently came to your attention, that was one of the oldest cases on our book. So we were very happy to get rid of that one and for it to end positively in light of the city. And outside counsel also closed 15 cases without any monies being paid to either the plaintiffs or to the plaintiffs' attorneys. In terms of the numbers, again, our budget is a little over $3.5 million. You can see, again, it is less than 1% of the total city operating budget, and it consists primarily of the salaries and benefits to the internal staff, as well as the monies being paid to outside counsel. I would say to you that if you're looking for significant changes, it's just a little less than, or I should say a little bit more than 1% decrease from last year. We took some money away from the non-tort legal services since the number of those non-tort litigation matters has decreased, so we were able to cut there again at the request of the council and the city manager's office. And the only increase really is due to the scheduled step increases and the various benefit costs. So next year, again, we're going to keep our head down and keep moving forward. We want to continue that litigation posture as well as continue and maintain your municipal services that you're accustomed to maintaining and receiving. And again, we always, I think, continue to look at which matters we can handle in-house and which ones would be appropriate. And with that, I'm open for any questions, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gennaro. We appreciate your presentation. Our next presentation will be from the Finance Department. Nelson Smith, please.
Thank you, Mayor Hall, Member City Council, Nelson Smith, Finance Director. It's my pleasure to present the Financial Services Department proposed budget for next fiscal year. This is our organizational chart. As you can see, the Finance Department is made up of 4 divisions: Treasury, Accounting, Purchasing, and Property Management. We have a current staffing level of 32 employees. Back in 2008-09, we had 35 employees and have been functioning at 32 for several years. Some of the accomplishments for the current year include receiving the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from GFOA. It's our 34th consecutive year of receiving that award. We also refinanced some wastewater revenue bonds, saving the enterprise about $17 million over the remaining term of those bonds. We've acquired over 60 residential and commercial properties for various transportation, water, and parks projects throughout the city. And we implemented an electronic pay stub program for employees, in addition to a pay card program for temporary employees, saving cost of paper printing, and has created some improved efficiencies for city staff. Our goals for next year would be to continue acquiring properties as needed for completion of city transportation, water, and parks projects. We're going to continue discussions with the Federal TIFIA Loan Group regarding the future borrowing to construct the Centennial Corridor project. And we'll continue updates and improvements to our accounting, purchasing, and treasury websites to provide more online opportunities for the community to obtain information and complete city transactions. This is the budget for the Financial Services Department. As you can see, the total budget for next year is proposed at $4,035,000, which is a $84,000 decrease compared to the prior year, or a 2% decrease. The majority of these costs are for personnel services, salary and benefits of $3.1 million, operating cost of just under $800,000, and $95,000 of capital outlay. The funding sources are varied. You can see the list on the left-hand side of the slide. Majority of the funding for my department comes out of the general fund at $2.9 million. There's about $400,000 of local trip funds. We have some staff being paid out of the wastewater and refuse fund. The parking garage at 18th and I Street is part of my budget. The equipment management fund, we manage and oversee the maintenance and replacement of photocopiers. And so the $95,000 of capital outlay is proposed replacement of copiers throughout the next year. The $145,000 of funding at the bottom covers not only the replacement of the copiers, but also routine maintenance throughout the year. You can see the assessment district budget is dropping significantly. We also refunded some assessment district bonds, some last year and some a couple years ago. This has allowed us some efficiencies in managing those programs, and our administrative costs have been able to go down. And my budget also includes the successor agency administration of the former redevelopment agency. A couple other items I wanted to go over that are more citywide discussion items would be the CalPERS retirement costs and the retiree medical subsidy program. This slide shows a multi-year history of the funding status for the PERS programs. We have 3 plans with the city of Bakersfield. We have a plan for police, sworn officers, fire sworn officers, and then a miscellaneous group, which covers everybody else. This is a combination of all 3 plans together. And that third line there with the double underline, you can see our unfunded liability has been around $300 million for the past 3 years, about 73% funded currently. This bar chart shows the funding status that was indicated on the previous slide. As you can see, back in 2008, we had a funding status of about 87%. During that next fiscal year, CalPERS lost about 25% of their value in their portfolio, which dropped our funded status. And since that point, we've been slowly climbing back to the current 73%. These are the PERS employer rate percentages that are paid on a biweekly basis. The blue line represents the rates for police officers, the red line for fire, and the purple for miscellaneous. The first 4 columns of numbers are actual numbers. So for 2015-16, we're currently paying 38.8% on a police officer. Next year, we'll be paying 42.475. Same for fire, and then miscellaneous would be the 19.4 currently. Next year's rates are set at 20.562. These are the dollar amounts associated with those percentages. As you can see, so the 2014-15, the first 2 numbers, the 13-14 and the 14-15, those are actual costs that were paid. The 2015-16 are the current year estimates, and then the 16-17 are the budget estimates for next year. The numbers out to the right are the projected costs based on the projections of PERS rates going forward. So for last fiscal year, the 2014-15, we spent a little over $14 million on police, 13.5 on miscellaneous employees, and 5.9 million on fire. These are the same costs on an average annual cost per employee. So you can see the police and fire on a per employee basis are much higher than the miscellaneous. And these are averages, so some, for miscellaneous employees, for a laborer or a clerk, we would probably pay less than that. And for management or supervision employees, we would pay more than that. But this is the average of all employees within that group for that period of time. The other item I want to talk about is the retiree medical program. The city subsidizes medical premiums cost for retirees. It's based on years of service and the type of plan they're in. All retirees who receive this benefit receive a 3% subsidy per year of service. Most of the retirees also receive a 42% subsidy of the PPO premium. This program was closed to new employees in 2006. On the 3% years of service. The 42% subsidy was actually closed to employees in 1996 for miscellaneous, and 1998 for police and fire. There are currently about 700 retirees currently receiving a benefit, and also 800 active employees that may be eligible for the subsidy upon their retirement. This program also carries a long-term unfunded liability, and our current funding status is about 50%. This slide, the red line shows the total liability of the program. The green line shows the balance in the trust fund, and the dotted blue line shows the decrease over time of the unfunded portion. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. On slide 11, Nelson, I'm wondering, it would have been, I think, really beneficial if we would have seen what the total costs were there, you know, a graph. On this one, you know, I certainly can add them all up and everything. It would have been helpful to have a graph of what our total liability there is. And if you wouldn't mind putting that together and kind of shooting it out to everybody, I think that would be helpful.
Sure.
So we can see what our year-to-year cost for the whole program is.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. We'll now have a budget presentation from the Police Department. Greg Williamson.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. While they're setting up, I think I need to say thank you to our business manager, Darren Branson, and Assistant Chief Lyle Martin, who did the heavy lifting on our budget for this year. I'd also like to thank the City of Bakersfield budget team, who was instrumental in assisting us moving forward with our proposed 2016-17 budget. Our proposed budget appropriations for the next fiscal year are a 0.21 decrease. The bottom line total includes grant funding and asset forfeiture, which I'll go over in a moment. Our resources include, of course, a great majority of the general fund, which has a slight decrease this year. However, what we have done is included just over $1.5 million from our asset forfeiture fund to assist us in making up some of the losses or cuts that we had to make to reach an agreeable number. On our increased costs, those are the costs without parentheses, that include medical costs and PERS, et cetera, are about $1.2 million, and then reductions that we made add up to about $1.35 million. This includes, as you can see, the asterisk in the salaries and benefits, the possibility during our mid-year look back at where we are, freezing a concept center supervisor position and our community relations supervisor position as well. The more notable on the reduction side is moving general fund money to our grant, our SLASF grant, which is just under $600,000, and that money will be used for our training academies, for our clerks at our 290 registration table, and for about $167,000 of training for our officers and employees. A summary of the asset forfeiture is before you now. It gives you a snapshot of where we put our asset forfeiture money towards last year and where we are moving it to this year to make up some of the cuts that we made to get to the budget bottom line number. That includes our about $1.5 million in overtime. Impress funds are used by our narcotics and other units for informant fees. Our contribution to a nonprofit organization, the Bakersfield Police Activities League, which is also an annual contribution, and then two canine purchases. Just before I move to this, we're almost exhausted on our federal asset forfeiture monies in our fund. We have, I believe, about $150,000. Well, it looks like about $140,000 left with no payouts in the near foreseeable future due to the federal government stopping that program for about 18 months or so. It was just reintroduced again. So hopefully, from a a longer outlook. We do have some monies coming forward, but I don't think in the near future, maybe in the next fiscal year. Our organization has not changed per se in regards to our chart, and we continue to operate with our East and West Captain and Investigations Division and Support Services. IACP recommendations, I think we're moving into and almost completing most of the recommendations that we felt would move us in a positive direction. Last year we had 12 community meetings throughout each zone of the community. Our zone policing continues to be the basis of our community-oriented philosophy, which we've moved forward to and working with our liaisons, both liaison officers and community relations teams and our beat officers to work towards that more community-oriented feel with our residents and your constituents. We've utilized crime analysis in our COPSTAT program to assist us in our deployment and hopefully reducing our response times, but also meeting the needs of the people that call upon us. Our community center, our comm center liaisons continue to be assigned to the communication center on each shift and answer phones. They are police officers assigned generally on light duty and sometimes assigned to the position to assist with reducing calls for service. We also continue to have our community liaison officers in our community relations unit. We moved from 2 to 4 officers this year, which has been encouraging. And we also continue to be encouraged by the numbers we see in our telephone report unit. Each of these I'll talk about in later slides. One of the highlights of our technology this year, I think we highlighted the crime analysis unit this year, is our auto vehicle locator, probably more notably known to you as GPS, in which the officers in their cars, when you're in your car, you see GPS, it tells you where you're going. This tells the dispatchers where the officers are at all times. It makes for easier deployment by the communications center. It frees up radio time, air time, so that the dispatchers are hopefully dispatching the officers that are closest to each call we receive and each time the officers are deployed. There's just a snapshot of what it looks like so the communications center dispatchers can see where the officers are and appropriately dispatched to the highest priority calls. As I said, our liaison positions at the communications center, each shift is staffed 24 hours a day. If we have light duty officers, then they sit in that position. If not, then we have officers assigned to the shift that take calls. They're fairly busy, is my understanding, sometimes as many as 30 to 50 calls a night. They will relieve us of having to go to or deploy an officer or PST in the field. The next, which I'll talk quite a bit about, is our community relations division. We now have 4 full-time officers, 6 community relations specialists. They work all hours of the day, day and night, and on weekends they flex their schedules to meet the community needs. This past year we have been heavily involved in the community. Our school resource, we revamped our school resource officer to 4 officers serving 79 schools at this point. They've been very well received, not only during school hours, but at extracurricular activities as well on the campuses of the schools. The telephone report unit, as I said, we're highly encouraged by their staff by PSTs, which our complement was beefed up during the IACP study. We provide a greater customer service because people don't have to wait for patrol responses to get there to take reports. It diverts lower priority calls. We do follow up on each of those cases, and we're running the unit from 7 in the morning until 11 p.m., except on Saturday and Sunday where we start at 8. Our average number of calls per month is 779 at this point. That's 779 less report calls that the officers have to respond to and frees up time for them to go to much higher priority calls. Once again, we have numerous state grants that are pending. It seems like our budget presentation generally comes before the award of those grants, but we have been highly successful in getting each of these. Many, the grants are generally with the Office of Traffic Safety to assist us in DUI enforcement, seatbelt enforcement, motorcycle, bicycle, pedestrian, and all sorts of other programs related to traffic. We also have a ABC grant to assist us in minor decoy shoulder tap operations and ABC training. And then, as I talked about, the $577,000 in frontline law enforcement, which will be used for, basically for our training academies, for the clerks in our registration desk, and also for overtime for the police officers. Our Part 1 crimes were up this year about 6% when compared with last year. Last year, we were down about just over 13% or so, and even though our crime was up this year somewhat, it is the second lowest crime rate the city has had in 10 years because of the reduction in the year prior. Most of those are created by large increases in the larcenies and aggravated assault sections of our Part 1 crimes. We have been moving towards trying to focus our goals on the City Council's goals as well, and working to better unify those. And these are some of the things that we came up with. Obviously, the community policing, neighborhood watch, and just that more community feel out in the neighborhoods and to your constituents is what we're really after. We started in the police academy on Monday with 20 recruits. We will revisit having another academy and possibly in early 17, depending on what the mid-year budget outlook is. Our animal control continues to move forward with our rabies licensing and microchip clinics. They have 12 clinics a year, and also since January 1st of 2015, with the monies authorized by you, we've issued 874 vouchers for spay and neuter, and 725 of those have been redeemed, with many others pending, so that's very positive for our animal control unit. Once again, in our community relations, as I said, we have six specialists and 4 officers. This past year, they did almost 1,000 presentations or involved themselves in 1,000 community events, and I think that says something about where we're trying to move to, not only with our relations unit, but also it brings officers and other employees out to these events out in the communities that you serve. I think it's very positive for the police department, and I get a lot of positive feedback on that. You don't see a lot of the positive things that we do in the news. That's the nature of the business that we're in, whether they don't have the time or they're not interested, if it doesn't sell the media that they're trying to sell. I can tell you that if you go to our Facebook page, you will see each and every one of the very positive things that we do in our community. Last year we had, I reported to you, we had just over 8,000 people who were on our Facebook. I'm glad to say that this year we have 23,800 people on our Facebook page. If you look in the corner there where it says this week, I believe it's over 75,000 people who have looked at our page, and that's just outreach from people sending what we're doing to their friends and other organizations. That was done on Friday of last week, so I didn't even complete the week. But anyway, I think it says a lot about what we can do with our social media and putting out a positive message and how we're unifying our community and police together to work together towards dealing with issues that we have. Still the stalwart in our community relations unit is our Neighborhood Watch program. We included 62 new Neighborhood Watch programs in 2015, and we now have 11,059 active programs. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. I'll take any questions you might have.
Councilmember Parlier.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I just want to thank you and Chief Martin's leadership with the police department, and also your community outreach efforts. I went to the new program, Coffee with a Cop, in the South Zone. It was a great event. It was well attended by the community, and I just want to thank you again for that.
Great. We'll have 5 more of those and 2 major community meetings, one on the east side of town and one on the west side of town this year.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Chief. Hey, the only thing I noticed is on your community relations slide with the Facebook page, your response time is 35 minutes, which I think is a little high.
Oh.
I think we should work to reduce that. But really, all in all, you guys are doing a great job. My hat's off to you, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Chief, always, my hat's off to your division. Your officers do an unbelievable job. I'm wondering if you could get some information to me. I'd like to know what a cost per officer we have based on your budget,
Okay.
and how many sworn officers that we have. Just give me an idea. On your division, on your GPS system, if you've got somebody in the Hill Division that's not very close to a response, but you've got somebody in the central, the main area, are they going to let that person go across that line? I'm
Yes.
thinking in terms of 24th Street. The hill the north side is in the Hill section, and the south side is in the Metro section.
Yes,
division.
Councilmember Maxwell, when they started developing the zone aspect of policing and how we police the community, that was one of my first questions is, are we going to be allowed to do that, and how are the dispatchers going to know? And that's when we started working on the development of the AVL program. It's been, I believe, 3 or 4 years we've been developing to try and get the technology introduced into our communication center. So that's one of the main reasons why we built that program.
Okay, and then under goals, I'd like to see personally that we have as a goal, and this is for you and for the city manager, to increase the number of officers that we have.
Okay.
Mr. Lyman pointed out that Bakersfield is bigger than Pittsburgh and St. Louis. Bakersfield actually is as he said, the 52nd largest. There are 3 cities that are comparable to Bakersfield in terms of number of people and their geographic area: Wichita, Kansas, Arlington, Texas, and Aurora, Colorado. They all are within 15,000 people of the population of Bakersfield. Yet of those 3, 2 of them have 300 more officers than we do, and one of them has over 250 more officers than we do. You guys do an outstanding job, but I think you need more help. And I'd like to see in the next 5 years us add 20 officers a year. So if that could be included, I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Williamson. We'll next have the budget presentation of the fire department. Chief Greener, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor Hall, council members, Doug Greener, Fire Chief, Bakersfield Fire Department. It's a pleasure to be here before you this afternoon to discuss the fire department's proposed budget for fiscal year 2016-17. As always, we begin with a broad overview of the fire department's organizational structure, including Fire Suppression Services Branch, Fire Administrative Services Branch, and the Fire Safety Services Branch. A slightly expanded version of our organizational chart shows again those 3 branches across the top, with the various fire department divisions and working groups reporting to those branches below. The fire department's proposed budget for fiscal year 2016-17 is $37,697,202, and as you can see, the bulk of that, $33.6 million, being budgeted to the Fire Suppression Branch, which is the operational arm of the fire department where emergency responses occur. Here the budget's broken out between personnel costs and operational budget. You can see again that Fire Suppression Branch at $30.6 million consumes most of the fire department's budget, as well as a almost $3 million operational budget. Slightly more budget detail here at the division level. Again, the divisions reporting to those 3 main branches. Across the board, most of our divisions saw very slight upticks in their budgets, with the exception of arson, down 2.08%, and support and administration down 3.72%. Arson down mainly to some shifts in benefit-related costs, and support and administration division down due to the fact that we shifted some of our salaries into a fee generated, to be covered by fee-generated revenue. So we did engage in budget modification to address some of the budgetary pressures the city of Bakersfield is experiencing. However, personnel costs did bump us up to just over negative at 0.36%. And that's proposed. So in terms of budget and workload or response load, how does the Bakersfield Fire Department compare to other fire department agencies in the state? And we begin here locally on the left with a budget comparison chart showing the county fire department's $147.9 million budget versus the Bakersfield Fire Department's $37.7 million budget. And then on the right, a response comparison chart showing the county fire department's 45,160 responses versus the Bakersfield Fire Department's 35,747 responses annually. These two charts, I think, are, here side by side, are a good indication. The Bakersfield Fire Department has a substantially lower budget. However, our workload or response load is quite close. Again, I think an affirmation that we operate under the right budgetary model, and frankly, the taxpayers are getting the most bang for their tax dollar. So we move on to more of an apples and apples comparison. The Bakersfield Fire Department is a Class II organization. Again, here on the left, a budget comparison of the 9 comparable jurisdictions per council resolution, showing the average non-comparable jurisdiction budget of $42.5 million. Again, compared to the BFD's $37.7 million. Versus on the right, a response comparison chart showing the 9 comparable jurisdictions average 21,621 responses in a year to the BFD's 35,747 runs. Again, a telling set of charts here. The BFD substantially under the average budget of the 9 comparable jurisdictions, almost $5 million below, and then significantly higher than the average 9 comparable jurisdictions in terms of workload or response numbers. And where would the Bakersfield Fire Department fall on the list of those 9 comparable jurisdictions in terms of budget? You can see we would be number 8 at $37.7 million. And where would we fall in the list of the 9 comparable jurisdictions in terms of workload or response load? The Bakersfield Fire Department would be number 3 and seriously challenging for the number 2 position at 35,747 annual responses. I'd like to discuss some budget-related activities within the 3 main fire department branches, beginning with Administrative Services Branch. Now, the fire department engages in ongoing planning for mission-critical issues throughout the year. Numerous fire department task forces deployed to deal with these issues monthly or quarterly, including department operations planning and state master mutual aid response planning. Both of those affect our disaster response capacity. In 15-16, the fire department did engage in quite a bit of disaster planning and training, which included maintaining our national incident management system and state emergency management system compliance, which is key to federal funding or grants in the event we do have a disaster locally. We must maintain that compliance. We also engaged in Department Operations Center command and control oversight, development, and maintenance, another key critical component to dealing with a disaster. The action plan for 16-17, again, to maintain that NIMS-SEMS compliance, not only for the fire department, to assist other departments within the city as well, and continue to refine Department Operations Center and Emergency Operations Center command and control oversight processes. The fire department plans to continue to pursue and monitor appropriate grant funding streams, including the State Homeland Security Grant Program and the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program. The State Homeland Security Grant Program recently purchased, as you can see on the far right, Level A hazardous materials entry suits for the fire department, and those are key pieces of equipment necessary for our Type 1 hazardous materials team, as well as ballistic personal protective equipment components. And this is for, in the future, if the fire department needs to deal with some sort of active shooter scenario, we'll be protected. Some very special funding here I just wanted to talk briefly about that does not have an impact on the general fund. Greatly appreciated from the Girl Scouts of America, who spearheaded a very special project funding PET oxygen masks for all Bakersfield Fire Department response resources. And here you can see on the right-hand side someone's pet cat receiving oxygen with a pet-specific mask. And I know the mayor is well aware of this, very different than a human mask, much more effective. The Bakersfield Fire Department responds to numerous and makes numerous pet-related rescues in any given year. And here's a series of photos that shows 3 in the last 6 months, and these are just the rescues that we were able to get photos of. So it's a significant issue, and we're very thankful for the funding that we received from the Girl Scouts. This is Haley and Kylie on the left. They were in charge of this project, and you can see the masks they were able to supply to the fire department, very specific, contoured for a dog or a cat's muzzle, provides high flow O2 where it's needed. So we're really proud to have that as our complement, and again, we thank the Girl Scouts. And in spite of what's shaping up to be somewhat of a bumpy budget cycle, we have very positive news on the capital improvement front for the fire department, which includes Fire Station 1 apparatus drive project that's in progress. Major apparatus drive and apparatus bay concrete removal, along with electrical and drainage repairs. Fire Station 4 major restroom facility rehabilitation that's in progress now, and construction will actually start in several weeks. Fire Station 7 recently had a major overhead door repair and structural repair project that was completed. Fire Station 8, the fire station serving the college district, obviously an ongoing major facility and site rehabilitation, been going on for about 4 months now. Completion likely in late June, early July. And then Fire Station 11 due to receive an emergency generator in the next several weeks, and that is designed to power that facility in the event of an electrical outage. And then I think some interesting photos here. This is the Fire Station 7 door project. You can see on the left there an antiquated, very heavy sectional roll-up door that had a history of several failures, and this thing weighed a lot. And on several occasions it failed and came slamming down. So that's been replaced now on the right with 2 smaller, lighter sectional roll-up doors that are more cost-effective in terms of operation, maintenance, and repair. This is an elevation drawing from RRM Design Group of the Fire Station 8 facility rehabilitation. This is that same elevation under actual construction, and you can see some of those design elements included in that elevation. Huge positive project that is making really, really good use of the existing facility. Many improvements, including new windows, new plumbing, new electrical, all systems that were in disrepair in the past, and then upgraded insulation as well that will make this a very livable facility, hopefully for the next 60 years. And just a quick note on the fire department's water conservation efforts. The fire department appreciates the severity of the drought in spite of the recent rain. We have resisted planting or replanting new landscapes that would have a significant water requirement. We've browned down some of our lawns and our green zones. not only to save water, but to also, lead by example and show the public that we're doing what we're asking them to do as well, too. So, and we can regreen these in short order when the drought does finally end. A large equipment update. In fiscal year 14-15, the council approved replacement of fire engines 5 and 6, and they have been replaced. They were just recently delivered approximately a month ago, which is why I mentioned them here. In fiscal year 2015-16, council approved replacement of fire engine 9 through insurance funding. That's in process. And brush patrol 24 as well. That reached the end of its service life, and that's in process. Proposed for fiscal year 2016-17 is a replacement of fire engine 11 that has also reached the end of its effective service life at 25 years, and that project is a $575,000 project. In 15-16, the Bakersfield Fire Department Community Services Office engaged in numerous public education, public information interfaces across the community, over 300 public education presentations. The action plan for 16-17 is to continue that very valuable service. And just a special project that I know the council's aware of that I think deserves a little bit of mention here too, and that's the BFD 9/11 World Trade Center Memorial Project. We were granted guardianship of an 8-ton steel beam from the World Trade Center that is slated to become the centerpiece of a 9/11 memorial located between Fire Station 15 and the Bakersfield Police Department substation at 1315 Buena Vista Road. We plan to have the memorial completed for the 15th anniversary of 9/11 on September 11th, 2016. Again, this does not have an impact on the general fund. This is being funded by Bakersfield Fire Department nonprofits and through very generous community funding. That includes Cynthia Lake Charitable Trust. I know Congressman McCarthy made a substantial donation. Councilmember Hansen has donated. I know Councilmember Parlier has donated. We really appreciate that, and this will be a very poignant dedication ceremony in September that we will definitely hope to see the council at. And with that, I'd like to call up Deputy Fire Chief of Operations Tyler Hartley to provide some insight into other budget-related activities with the remaining 2 branches.
Thank you, Chief, Mayor Hall, members of council. It's a pleasure to be here before you. Within our Fire Safety Services branch, we do have our Fire Prevention Division. Our total inspections over the past year was accounted for 5,684 inspections, which was a 20% increase over the previous year. Significant categories that contributed to that increase were the environmental regulatory category, hazardous waste generators, and also the alarms, sprinklers, other fire systems categories, where we did several restaurant inspections, including the inspection of hood systems to ensure that they function safely and appropriately. Accomplishments for the Fire Prevention Division for FY 15-16 included the improvement of revenue collection, the completion of 698 annual restaurant inspections, and 207 residential care inspections. And our action plan for 16-17 includes the focus on fire inspections of at-risk occupancies, the reduction of all fires through increased inspections, and the inspection of 525 oil wells. Our Emergency Communications Center, or ECC, our dispatch facility, a joint facility, accomplishments for 15-16 included upgrades to mobile data devices and the move to a new joint facility at the same location, but a move to a new building up there, which has been very beneficial to our dispatchers. Action plan for FY 16-17 includes the continuation of CAD upgrades and fine-tuning to ensure that dispatching continues to be efficient and customer service to our community is appropriate. We also plan to hire and train new fire dispatchers. While we are at full complement at this time for the city, we do engage in the assistance of hiring and training new fire dispatchers at the joint facility. Fire station maintenance, as Chief Greener mentioned, has been extremely successful over this past year. We've accomplished a lot of rehabilitation for several different fire department facilities. We've also identified rehabilitation issues for the future. We prioritize those, and we are planning for capital improvements, and that comes in the form of our 5-year plan. Action plans for 16-17 includes continued focus on deferred maintenance of fire department facilities. Under our Fire Suppression Services branch, emergency responses for the year 2015 continued to increase, a total of 35,747 calls for service, broken down into several different categories. Fire and explosion responses, just over 2,000. Emergency medical responses, close to 20,000 calls. Technical and heavy rescue responses, just over 2,000. Hazardous conditions responses, 695. Alarms, investigations, and other responses, just under 10,000. And then public service responses, just under 2,000, which is a 6% increase over our previous year. If we look at our 5-year trend line, it's easy to see that total responses have increased, calls for services have continued to increase year after year. We further broke those down to indicate that our fire responses are also increasing. Again, a 5-year trend line indicating over 2,000 calls for fire-related responses in the year of 2015. Emergency medical responses, again, can be indicated with our 5-year trend line to be continuing in calls for service each year. During the year of 2015, fire loss, total property loss, just over $12 million, connected to or significant exposures up over $49 million, with a cost savings of quite a bit there, or property savings of quite a bit. Our trend line for our arson division, again, over the 5 years, indicates increased workload. Their arrests were at 46. Convictions of those 46 arrests were 13, which is a 36% conviction rate in 2015, although many of those arrests take a significant amount of time in the court system to come through fruition. So we do expect that conviction rate to improve. Our fire training division has been quite active. As you are well aware, we graduated an academy last year of several individuals, in fact 24 firefighters. We completed several promotional exams for all ranks, and we tracked over 80,000 individual training hours of our firefighters over this past year. Our plan for the future is, again, another academy this year, and to maintain the joint Olive Drive Fire Training Facility to the best of our ability, of course, meet all training mandates. To provide some additional information on our staffing update, I'd invite Chief Greener back to the podium.
Thank you, Chief. And in closing, I'd just like to give the council a brief staffing update. Again, here another 5-year trend line. You can see relatively flat, appropriately so for 16-17. We remain unchanged at 199 approved positions. However, future firefighter recruitments will include BFD Fire Academy 2016-1 that begins in July. And the recruits from this academy will be used to replace vacant positions occurring through attrition due to retirements, terminations, and resignations. So again, these are not new positions, but we're filling vacant approved positions. I'd just like to thank the City of Bakersfield budget team for their assistance in this process, as well as the fire chief staff and general staff for their assistance in the process as well. We, as always, thank the council for your continued support. Thank the city manager's office for the support as well. And Mayor Hall, on behalf of everyone at the fire department, we'd like to thank you for your many years of service as mayor, and we're definitely going to miss you, sir. Thank you. I will now entertain questions or comments.
Councilmember Parlier.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for keeping our community safe. The question I have for you is in regards to our, I guess, our mutual response agreement with our partners over at the county. With their budget problems, do you feel it's going to affect us at all, our response times within the city core, or anything else?
Yeah, Mayor Hall, Councilmember Parlier, there's no indication at this point that staffing-related reductions on the county fire side will occur in the metro area. We haven't heard anything about that. Now, if we do, then that may become somewhat of an issue, but there's no indication at this point that's going to occur, and we wouldn't expect their response times to be affected at this point. We'll certainly keep you posted if that changes.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Hall. Chief, great job. You guys do outstanding work, and I think the community recognizes that and appreciates it very much.
Thank you.
On your one presentation, the comparable jurisdictions on budget.
Yes, sir.
Could you possibly, I don't know if the other council members would be interested in this, but could you maybe add another row showing what the population of each one of those cities is and the number of actual firefighters they have? I think, if we're going to prioritize where we're spending our money, we need to know why these other people are spending what they're spending. If it's because they have populations that are similar to ours and we're not spending as much, we don't have as many firefighters. That's a good question to ask ourselves. And then the other thing I'd just like to point out is in your 35,747 responses in a single year, that's 100 responses a day. That's phenomenal. That's just phenomenal. I just want to make sure you've got the resources you need.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Councilmember Rivera.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. You are indeed a class act, and so is your department. So I appreciate you taking the time to present to us today. I know that this might be, I think this is probably the most germane place to do it on the agenda since we're at the end now. And I know this event makes your guys' life just a little bit easier because it concentrates fireworks in Bakersfield. So I'm actually, I may have a second one here as well, but I'm happy to announce that the California Independent Petroleum Association will go ahead and pitch in for the 4th of July celebration, as will EMB Natural Resources. I just got a yes, so I can announce that one as well. So if, John, you could follow up with me afterwards, we'll do what we can to make it a little bit easier for you guys on the 4th of July. Thanks so much.
Councilmember Weir.
Thanks, Mayor. Chief, a while back I had mentioned and passed along that we were having a problem out in Fire Station 10 with a gate out there.
Yes, sir.
Has that been corrected? Is it totally finished now? Or?
Yes, sir. I believe that was corrected a week to 10 days after your request.
Okay, that's fine. If you could just follow up later after this and let me know if it's all taken care of, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
And then in regard to your response times on your comparison with average 21,620 runs compared to your 35,000.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible that you could give us a breakdown of the average runs like you did with your fire and emergency medical responses, technical? Could you give us the breakdown of those other jurisdictions that you're comparing yourself to?
Yes, Mayor Hall, Councilmember Weir, we will certainly do that for you.
Okay.
Try and compile that information.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Chief Greener, since this is my last time that you and your staff will be appearing in front of me, I think it would be appropriate for me to commend you and your command staff for the ongoing leadership that you provide in making it possible for my company and the fire department to have the outstanding relationship that it does. When you consider that you stated in 2015 that you had 19,349 medical aids, that means that I had the same thing. But most importantly to me in that statistic is I would be willing to bet, without going to my figure boat, that we had less than 6 concerns that your command staff had to mediate to bring conclusion to those. And I think that's exceptional because we're doing this, the 6% growth in medical aid calls, but most importantly is that to me, and should be to your staff as well, as our relationship just continues to grow. And I'm so proud of that because there are major cities in California that can't say that. But when you have a private ambulance company and a fire department that works as well together as we do with our 2 agencies, I think that's commendable. And I thank you and your command staff and your leadership team to make that possible for us to have the outstanding working relationship that we have.
Well, thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure, and it always is a pleasure to work with Hall Ambulance.
Thank you. There are no further council questions or comments, so we stand adjourned.